Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story, I'd like to welcome a brand new author to the channel, and with a channel exclusive, of which I hope you sink your teeth into. Now if you do enjoy this story, then be sure to head over to the Amazon bookstore, of which you can buy yourself a copy, and support this upcoming author. And as ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag Team Fear and DMT's Cryptid Crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story, and titled Mortal Creatures of the Dead. Let's get straight into that. Chapter 1. Crumbling church ruins, northwest Russia, 10 miles east of Estonia, February 1642. The memory of the werewolf's ferocious snarling bounced around Catherine's mind as she packed up the camp at dawn. She was exhausted, having hunted him and his pack over the past 2 months in Estonia, killing 9 of his family. He was the toughest werewolf she had ever fought. The rest of his pack had been no worse than the wolves or wolfmen she had hunted. Her plan of killing him days ago had failed, and so he pursued her through the forest until she hid in the high branches of an isolated oak tree. And since she had left her horses in the village stables in her desperate escape, she recalled his blue eyes reflecting in the moonlight, glaring at her. He circled below, making attempts to climb up, but his claws were useless at grasping the trunk. At the time she had her sword, throwing axes, and knives yet was out of shot and powder for her pistols, and so she waited until dawn for the werewolf named Alaric to return to human form. As the clouds dissipated and the sun rose, she watched him run back to his cottage to lick his wounds from their fight. Throughout her time hunting his kind, she heard a person could shout their real name to turn them back to human form, yet it had never worked on any werewolf she had killed. It was bullshit. At nightfall, she planned to kill him and claim the bounty. Catherine's reputation as a were-hunter was well known in northwest Russia, so a mayor of the town in Estonia had hired her to wipe out the werewolves attacking his town. The money she and her father earned by hunting werewolves and wolfmen over the past 8 years had kept them in a relative comfort. It made them respected by all, since they took risks for the benefit of the rest. The wind whipped her ragged shoulder-length brown hair across her dark eyes. This is getting too long and needs a cut and a wash, she thought. Her horse, Barley, grazed a few feet away outside the low flint walls of the crumbling church ruins where they had spent the night. Barley was a Russian Altai breed, a perfect grey stallion she had owned for 5 years. They had a bond of trust, and she had never met a more sure-footed horse. And as she watched him, he cast his gaze to her other horse, which she had acquired to pull the cart. And Catherine had not named the brown mare yet, since she had only bought her a day ago in Narva, northeast Estonia. Her previous one had been attacked by a bear, sadly making it too skittish for her kind of work. And the bear fled after she shot at it 3 times, as her dog, Tsar, had charged at it. It was a waste of ammunition, but enough to scare it away. Its hide would have given her a month's worth of money, but she needed a horse more at the time. And the sky to the west was a sullen grey, yet to the east, where they had to go, the clouds were a dull white, with occasional gaps showing patches of blue. It did not mean warmth and summer. It was only a different damn colour to look at in the firmament. She glanced at the 3 fires around the camp. They had burned out long ago, yet had done their job keeping natural predators at bay. One gave off faint wisps of smoke from the embers, yet the other 2 were now cold and covered in morning dew. Putting on her gloves after rolling up the bare hide blankets, she unsheathed her sword before taking a brief walk around the small church ruins with her head bowed. The ruin had kept the wind at bay during the night, and there was still a thin layer of snow on the grass and sod. But she instinctively knew more snow was on the way. As she walked towards the charred stone arch to the east, Tsar bound down from the cart to greet her. He moved quietly for a dog of his size, and she was thankful for it. Tsar was a mottled black and grey Caucasian shepherd dog, capable of killing wolves or anything he wanted, including small bears. He was nearly 3 foot tall when on all fours and was her pride and joy, her guardian, loyal, fearless, and above all stronger than her. As she gave him a loving hug, speaking to him fondly or rubbing his black jowls, he responded with a lick of her cheeks and then stretched and yawned as if to say he had slept soundly. Her cart was lighter now, since she had sold her wolf pelts and deer meat in Narva. Her coin purses were still heavy, even after buying 4 plucked geese, plenty of cheese, apples, and water for the journey home to Gostelitsky in northwest Russia. 1 goose would remain as a gift for her father in Sibylent. The journey would be 15 hours if they were going straight home, if they did not encounter highwaymen. But a mile from Gostelitsky, she intended to encamp in yet another derelict ruin, a watchtower where she would finally kill Alaric. After hitching up the unnamed horse to the cart via its collar, she checked her other possession underneath the well-oiled leather tarp. Her bow and quiver were there along with her crossbow, extra shot and powder, holy water vials plus a sack of mistletoe. She regretted losing her flintlock musket down a gorge 2 weeks ago on a previous kill, but her favourite weapons of choice were her bear traps. It had taken months of training from herself and her father to keep Tsar away from them. Under her fur-lined battle-weary cloak, she wore a white blouse above brown leather trousers that supported 2 pistols, 4 knives and her sword with a loop guard, knuckle bow and spiked pommel. And over the top of her blouse, she strapped on a sturdy leather chest rig with 3 more pistols across her ample chest. There was no such thing as travelling light in her profession. And Barley wickered enthusiastically, his ears pricking forward as she placed the saddle over his back before tightening the straps under his belly. Mounting him, Catherine took her brass monocular from a saddle pouch to survey the route east and west. Satisfied it was safe, she ushered Barley forward, down the gently sloping mud road. The other horse giddily followed, with the cart that Tsar lumbered on ahead. The werewolf she was about to kill, Alaric, was the alpha male, who remained elusive during her killing spree. He always seemed to be at the back, directing the others. She had met him in person, a day after their last encounter when he was in human form. He had been arrested and thrown in the night watch cells after a bar fight before she was going to kill him, and so she paid the jailer and the magistrate a pearl each to let him out in 48 hours instead of 24, giving her a good head start. If she had been half hour earlier in her pursuit, she could have claimed the bounty for the entire hunt and been home already. When she had last spoken to him, he held on to the bars of the cell at ground level to the cobbled street in the coastal town of Sillamäe in North Estonia. The bounty license issued by the Estonian mayor was not valid there, so she would have been arrested for murder in that town. And so, with half a smile, she rattled her favourite knife along the bars of his cell, telling Alaric exactly where she was going. He only had to follow the scent of his deceased fellow pack members, and she waved the knife to her cart with various leather sacks hung on the outside. They contained body parts from his family, now transformed back into their human equivalents. She placed them in the same way a nobleman would hang hunting trophies on his walls, yet in sacks nailed to the cart by string loops. She had no intention of keeping or displaying them. Alaric had sniffed the air, and then his face contorted into a rictus of hate as he caught their scent, vowing to track her down to the end of the world. Laughing inwardly, she wasn't sure about today's date, but knew it was February 1642. It was her 5th werewolf hunt in 12 months, only this time for the last of the pack. She was setting herself as bait, and she was looking forward to it. And Catherine would have loved to gallop to her destination, but the rickety cart would have disintegrated over the uneven road. All round her were trees, snow, and birds, yet she still glimpsed over her shoulder every so often to double-check that Alaric hadn't hired a horse to catch up with her. And as the road turned gently south, she was surprised to see a massive logging camp opposite a clay mine on both sides of the road, about half a mile ahead. When she passed this way 2 months ago, none of this was evident. She guessed it must have been for the war. Russia is always at war, she thought. Serfs were running around like ants, being whipped and beaten to meet their quota of digging for mud, as she called it, before being given a meagre meal of soup, or to help the entitled landlords who wanted nothing more than to expand their empire or provide more conscripts to the crown, while receiving an exemption for themselves and those that they treasured. A murder of crows flew low overhead, startling her, yet she knew they were waiting for their day's work to end before descending on the dead. Not dead yet, she shouted at them with a clenched fist. Seeing this, she contemplated Russia would soon be at war once again, but wanted no part of it, and suddenly didn't want to be conscripted. Generations of her family had shed blood against the numerous enemies. This time it was probably with Sweden, an enemy she knew nothing about and could not care less about them. Now her heart skipped a beat as she saw a woman in the camp. There's no way I'm joining them either, she thought, and so took out her monocular once more. She gasped. The rude home was not free of soldiers. Being forced into the army was not in her plans. She slapped the monocular back into its holster, spinning Bali to the left, and then galloped to the high tree line, whistling for Tsar and her cart puller to follow. It was a short sprint, but necessary. 50 paces later, and they were hidden within minutes inside the edge of the forest. She leapt from the saddle, ushering the cart horse into the shadows provided by the tall evergreen trees, and giving Tsar a signal to stay quiet. The only sound was the chittering of birds as she tethered the horses. If they got spooked by a bear or wolf, she didn't want them bolting towards the army, giving away their position. She lay on the ground behind the cover of 2 bushes next to Tsar, watching about 200 soldiers march along the road, hearing the faint singing from the men at the head of the column, accompanied by drummers. And then, through her monocular, she saw another garrison a mile away, then another in the distance. We have to wait, boy, she said to Tsar. She pulled her hood low over her face, rolling onto her back, and letting out a sigh. This is going to affect our plans. But hey, it's a bit of a rest, right? Tsar simply rolled over, mimicking her and giving her a look which she interpreted as nap time. She felt nothing of the sort. Her mind raced about the timescales of setting up the kill zone, hoping the rain and snow would not return so she could keep her powder dry. An hour later the marching soldiers had passed, and so she mounted Bali once more, leading her team out of the woods and sauntering past the logging camp and mine without incident. A few miles later, at the crest of a hill, she arrived at her intended destination, the ruins of an ancient stone watchtower at the side of the road. Moss and ivy covered the crumbling 10-foot-high masonry. Everything above the stone had been wood, and it had burned down long ago. Heading through the ruins, she saw the beauty of her town beyond, its church, town hall, clock tower, homes, and taverns. The Tsar looked back over his right shoulder, as if saying, "We're not going home yet, are we? Well, it's another night of fighting." His eyes betrayed tiredness, but she knew he would be ready when Alaric appeared. She gave him a knowing wink, adding a smile. That's what we do. Dismounting Bali, she stretched her legs. It had been a long 2 months of hunting and killing in Estonia. Not only for her, but also for her faithful companions. She was glad to be almost home. Taking a monocular from her saddle once more, she spied the routes east and west. Being so close to home, it felt odd, checking for threats. But it was here she wanted to kill Alaric, and with an audience, on home turf, where people would further respect the work she and her father did, since they killed their first werewolves when she was a teenager. He dies tonight, she thought, slapping the monocular closed, and then sitting with a thumb on the grassy earth. And she drew her sword, staring at its chipped, battle-weary steel. This needs sharpening, she thought, and yet men are still burying women as witches, and the men of the town lack the courage to go out and fight werewolves. But they will happily join an army to kill other men in wars. What a bunch of idiots. They think there's safety in numbers and They can hide behind the hundreds of additional troops in front. Huh! Bollocks! All you have is yourself in a fight. As she resheathed her sword, picking up the monocular once again, it was a delight to see many torches burning in the stone towers on the surrounding walls together with the faint flicker of illumination from windows in Gostelitsky. But her desire to head home was cast out. She was cold and needed food before tonight's fight. She stood up, hoisting a goose from the cart by its neck. Tsar, having taken her moments of respite to take yet another nap, saw the goose skewered, and so licked his lips, sitting upon his haunches, eager for the feast. Catherine sensed he was mocking her, overthinking of the night ahead. And although the warmth of the town called to her, it was no time to relax. Alaric would be here tonight. She knew it. And the clouds were dense overhead, yet it would be full moon in a few hours. At this time of year, the full moon lasted 3 days. She held her right hand up to the horizon, below the setting sun, using her father's method. And with fingers extended, one above the other, she knew each finger represented 15 minutes of daylight, and so they had an hour before total darkness. She nudged Tsar with a friendly shoulder as they watched the fire crackle as the tinder blossomed into flame. "Boy," she said to him, ruffling his head, "I need you to do one thing for me tonight." He looked at her with bright eyes. "Tonight you kill, and we don't die." He placed his front left paw on her lap as if offering a loving sign of acknowledgement. She knew he was always ready for a fight, as she was, but tonight was the finale. "Walk with me," she said to Tsar. "We need to reassess the plan." The ruin consisted of 2 semicircles of flint walls with arched entrances facing east and west, both doors now absent, destroyed by fire. To the east, a line of oaks provided yet another semicircle of cover, a short way off. They would offer a great vantage point to shoot from, as the ruined walls' tops were perfect for placing the werewolf's remains. As the skin of the goose continued to crackle above the fire, she took the leather pouches containing the remains from the cart, placing them strategically around the ruin, knowing the scent on the wind would do the trick of guiding Alaric in. When she had bagged them, they were the feet and hands of the wolfmen and werewolves. Now they were mere human stumps of the same, and they stank, which was what she wanted in many ways. As the goose continued to cook, she took Tsar to the tree line to find a suitable tree to sit in, to wait out the night. Happy with what she saw, she slung a rope into the lofty heights of the branches, hoisted up her crossbow, 2 throwing axes, and her bow before returning to the ruin. "You want some goose?" she asked, and he barred a happy reply, giving her a look that said, "Dinner?" She had to agree it was time, ruffling his head affectionately before ripping pieces of flesh from the plucked goose and sharing it with him as the horses grazed. "Now we wait," she said, tossing a leg bone into the smouldering embers. "Come on." Tsar followed her to the tree line where she told him to wait before she walked back to the ruins once more to set up the bear traps. She knew Tsar would obediently wait for her trigger word before leaving his post, and so took a moment to add another twig of mistletoe to her necklace for protection and good luck, tying it on with a piece of cotton thread. After lighting fires inside and outside the ruin to illuminate the kill zone, she logged into the trees to sit on a sturdy branch above Tsar, feeling tense yet with little to do, wishing she was sitting by one of the fires. And she was thankful for her fur-lined cloak as dusk fell, and Tsar remained silent as she put on her wrist and leg armor, plus gauntlets. She loaded her crossbow, pistols, and rechecked her bow numerous times while in the safety of the trees. And for miles around, the light from the fires reflected on every shiny surface, long-lost arrowheads, bits of metal or glass and more, as if hundreds of eyes were watching them. She second-guessed herself, looking at the traps. Would Alaric see them? She had used them on half of his pack and was confident they were in the right places, hoping he was as dumb as the others. And suddenly Tsar growled as the clouds parted, revealing a grey-white full moon. And then she heard a haunting howl from the west. Catherine snapped her head towards Tsar, seeing his nose pointed directly at the sound along the road. She scanned the road and fields with her binocular, and then saw Alaric bounding their way. He was in werewolf form. His teeth and eyes glinted in the faint light of the moon in full contrast to his black fur. He switched from running on all fours to running on his hind legs, dependent upon the terrain. But his relentless advance made her pick up her crossbow in her left hand and pistol in her right. "Stay," she said to Sar, who was visibly itching to attack. Now Alaric was half a mile away and closing fast. The horses bolted, disappearing into the gloom. "Stay," she repeated. And despite being well hidden, she knew Alaric had the edge when it came to his senses, against her, at least. But Sar had the same senses as him. "Stay," her voice trailing off a fraction. Alaric leapt into the ruins over the first bear trap in the western doorway, skidding to a halt in the centre, and eyeing the sacks around the walls. His beast brain is obviously in command over his human one, she thought. Catherine fired her crossbow, seeing the bolt slam deep into his right shoulder and causing him to wince. He turned to face her directly with a guttural growl, snatching the bolt out and tossing it to the ground. "Stay," she said again, for what she hoped was the last time. Alaric bounded forward on all fours, catching his front right paw in the eastern bear trap. It snapped shut with a metallic iron slam, which echoed off the walls. The sound of his pain no doubt carried for miles, as he bounced violently down the grey stone steps to the accompanying sound of breaking bones and metal on the rock. She dropped from the tree line, landed on the squelch of the grass next to Sar, and aiming for Alaric's eyes, firing 2 pistols as he contorted in agony. Blood spurted in high arcs from his sockets as he tried to massage his eyes with his free paw. She knew werewolves heal quickly, but the healing time would take long compared to the time she needed. She reholstered the pistols and then launched a throwing axe at him. It landed square between his eyes, nearly bearing itself up to the handle, with the impact causing him to fall on his back. No sound this time. His arms sprawled out as if he were dead. The bear trap still had a firm grip upon him, and so she turned to the ever-patient Sar, shouting, "Destroy!" The speed at which he moved never ceased to amaze her. He was on Alaric before she had even closed in. His massive jaws ripped the werewolf's throat out in a violent twisting movement, as more blood spurted out across the ancient flagstones. Catherine finished the onslaught by pulling her throwing axe from Alaric's forehead and cutting off his head with 4 definitive, hefty strikes. "Well, 10 out of 10 for me," she panted, flicking her hair back. "And 0 for you and your kind fucker." Alaric's head rolled towards the nearest fire, his fur beginning to burn against the smouldering charcoal. And as his head and body reverted to human form, she let out a huge sigh of relief, giving Sar a loving rub to the top of his head, and then hugging him around his neck. "Time to burn the body," she said flatly, half to him and half to herself. "Then we have to send word to the mayor to get our reward. But, my boy, we won." She tossed her axe onto the ground, where it landed on the stone with a resonating clatter as she let out another almighty sigh. And slumping to the ground, resting her hands upon her knees and calming down, she took a moment to look at Sar. Her usual permanent scowl evaporated in a flash. "Look at you, you messy beast," she said, sounding like a protective parent. Jumping up, she swiped a rag and flask of water from the cart to clear up the blood from around his mouth. "Good boy, you've earned some more, goose." And while eating their second, well-earned dinner in the ruins, they watched the body together, with the other limbs of Alaric's pack burned from a distance in the meadow to the south. She burned their sacks as well, where it was too dark to find the horses tonight. But instinctively, she knew they wouldn't wander too far. Besides, it was late, and she needed to sleep. The only reason she didn't go directly home was to make sure the fire didn't spread, setting fire to the rest of the field. Chapter 2. I hate my job. Let's get straight into that. Captain Christoph Zimmer, commander of the soldiers of Kulovda, rode slowly north to Gostelitsky on the skittish horse which he was contemplating shooting in the back of the head. It had whinnied at the slightest problems over the last 20 miles. A butterfly, a moth, a bird. Everything made it change direction or halter. He decided it had issues. Adding to his current foul mood, he had parted badly from his family. A row which had been ongoing for years between himself and his 3 brothers, had gotten to the point of physical violence. He had knocked out 2 of them before leaving the house. He was pissed off, tired, and hungry. Additionally, the soldiers he led were tiresome. Some were no older than 16, too full of energy and keenness, full of relentless questions, while others were gnarly seasoned veterans who complained about everything. And although he outranked them all, he respected and trusted them, yet at the same time wished they would march quietly, leaving him to his thoughts. He did not want to tell them to shut up since their conversations, whether positive or pointless, relieved the stress. Lord and Lady Kulovda had appointed him the temporary role of a missionary since they trusted him above all others. His current mission was to deliver 2 letters to High Catherine Duke of Gostelitsky to sort out Kulovda's werewolf problem. Now, his new role had a few extra perks, which mildly elevated his mood, but they were at the back of his mind since he was distraught about his girlfriend. All he saw on the journey reminded him of her. He sat in the saddle of a stupid horse, coming from a family of utter nutters, as he headed to a town he had never heard of, off to hire a woman to do a man's job. He thought it might be better to blow his brains out instead of the horses. After a hearty breakfast, Catherine gathered the horses from the meadow around the ruins, before heading home with Tsar, bounding on ahead with skipping proudness to his bulky gait. Travelling east towards the rising sun, she saw soldier recruitment posters, which unnerved her. Some stated mandatory conscription was in place for anyone between the ages of 16 to 40. She wanted no part in any war. She had seen her fair share of blood and guts to know what war was, something she would be good at, but at the same time preferred to pick her battles. Gostelitsky looked inviting in the early morning light, and her home was only a couple of streets away from the main gate. Yet she had to send a letter to the Estonian mayor informing him the job was done. And so, after the guards let her in, she took a detour to the curious office. She wanted the second half of her reward money as soon as possible, allowing her to buy more clothing, gear, and weapons, which reminded her she had to sharpen her sword when she got home. Or I could get one of my sisters to do it, she thought, chuckling to herself. After sending the letter, she arrived at her half-timber home on the edge of town, entering through the south garden gate, keeping as quiet as possible. She wanted to surprise her family, but had to put the horses to bed and stow her cart. She would let the horses run free anywhere outside the town, but thieves were a problem, as the town was still expanding and gypsies were everywhere. And she grabbed some fresh straw from the floor and filled her feed buckets with oats before hanging Barley's saddle on a wooden horse, and then brushed them both down before locking the doors and heading to the house. "Hello?" she called out as the door clicked shut behind her. Her 3 teenage sisters' happy faces greeted her as Tsar bounded into the living room to the sound of joyous shouts. Her sisters petted and hugged Tsar enthusiastically before giving her greeting hugs as Ivan, her father, waved to her from his bed at the far side of the living room. On approaching him, she saw his wounds had been festering, but he was healing well, thanks to her sister's care. "We won, Dad," she said, taking his hand and kneeling beside him. You always do," he replied. "I told both of you well." "Your beard is getting a bit greyer," she joked, taking a moment to assess his bandages and ointment administered to his forehead and arms. The wounds were not from werewolves or other animals, but a horse riding accident 2 months ago. Ivan wanted to go one way, the horse, it wanted to go the other. The tree, meanwhile, had stayed in the middle. "You'll be better in a week," she said fondly. "Plus, I have a goose for us all, for dinner tonight." He replied with a deferent smile. Girls, want a bath for Cat, he said softly. She looks and smells like she needs one. I didn't chuckle. A loud and repetitive knock at the door startled the household as her sister Beth ran to open it, and Sal barked, following her. A moment later, Catherine saw a strikingly handsome soldier in royal red and blue livery enter the living room. It was a uniform she didn't recognize, and he had a black fur hat tucked under his left arm, plus a brown leather satchel slung over his shoulder. Unlike most Russian countrymen, he was clean-shaven, yet the determined look upon his face spoke of nothing but a careered soldier. He seemed to be staring at the wall above her father's bed, as if not wishing to make eye contact. Beth pointed at Cat from behind the soldier's back, mouthing the words, "He's here for you." "Good day," he said, pulling his brown satchel from behind him and taking out 2 paper folds, both sealed with red wax. "I'm here to see Catherine Dude of Gostilitsy. I hope she's here." "I'm Catherine," she replied, standing up from her father's bedside. They made eye contact for a second more than was expected under the circumstances. A brief smile etched across both their faces. "He looks like a soldier, but only carries a sword and pistol," she thought, carrying enough weapons to level a small village. Thankfully for her, he broke the silence while staring at her chest. "I'm Christoph. I act as a missionary for the Lord and Lady Golovda. They have a commission for you." And she turned to glance at her father. "Another one?" "Your reputation, my dear," her father replied, giving a wink of approval. "Our reputation," she corrected him with a smile, referring to how they were both regarded in the were-hunting business. "Forgive me, Catherine, but your appearance is not what I expected," Christoph added. "You seem so young." His voice was deep, but with a sympathetic tone. I was not expecting to employ how can I say, a young lady." She scoffed at his words. "I'm 25 and have been slaughtering werewolves and wolfmen since I was 18. I have enough scars to prove it, if you want to see them." She said the second bit a bit mischievously, but with half a mind to show him in her bedroom whenever he wanted. Christoph chuckled. "That won't be necessary." "He's handsome and about my age," she thought, blushing momentarily. "Lord and Lady Golovda will pay above your usual rate, due to the nature of the target. Can we talk in private, or are you happy to discuss it here?" "I'm happy to chat in front of my father only." She then shooed away her siblings. "I'll make my bath and prepare my bed, please. Also, get Sal something to eat." "We always keep food for you, boy," Beth replied. "Thank you. Now go. I'll only be a minute." Catherine took some calming breaths, looking at Christoph once more. He truly is a handsome man, she thought. "What are those letters that you're holding?" "These are letters from Lord and Lady Golovda. One is for the house, and the second is your commission. My lordship needs a more pressing than the war. Each letter also contains a bronze royal seal, a badge, effectively. It will allow you a safe passage from here to Golovda in the south and the town of Rowendine, further south, where your target resides. The seals, they are effective now. Any Russian military officials, they will recognize them." Now, Catherine took the first letter from him, feeling a heavy metallic weight in the corner of it. She was about to open it, and then reality set in. "But I can't leave my family now. I need to protect them. War is coming. Troops march every day." She took off her cloak and chest rig, and then unbuckled her belt, placing everything on the dining table, feeling too hot from the nearby fire. "So, tell me about this commission," she said with what she thought was a warm smile. But again Christoph was being the consummate professional, still staring at the wall. "You're too uptight. What's in the other paper?" He seemed to ignore her, and continued. "This is for the household," he said, handing over the second letter, but this time he handed it to her father. "It says you are all exempt from military duty." Her father, Ivan, opened it with a flick of his thumbs at the same time, snatching up his glasses. "Oh my!" he exclaimed. "It's true. Cat, look." and Catherine read the letter in a flash and handed it back. She wanted to hug and kiss Christophe for the missive, but managed to control herself quietly. Christophe gave Catherine a reassuring smile. I must be going now, to join my troops in my lodgings at the Fighting Cock's Inn, down the road. I'll return midday tomorrow for your answer. My lord and lady, and I do hope you will accept. I bid you both a good day. Wait, Catherine said. Stop being such a straight-backed formal royal lackey. Follow me to the garden and tell me more about this. I can read the assignment letter. Come on, she said forcefully, grabbing his wrist, leading him to the back door. The Tsar followed dutifully, keeping guard of her around the stranger. Standing together on the snow-scattered lawn, Christophe seemed to relax. Thank you for this informal moment. His head lowered as if wishing to not make eye contact. I'm not used to this missionary business and thought it best to imitate the courtiers we have at the castle. Your frankness is most welcome. No, you're welcome, but I never met any of the kind of people you talk of, and I've never met a lord or lady before. Now, before I open this letter, tell me, you seem so much stronger than me. You're taller and built like him. And she took her eyes off his biceps and broad chest for a second gesture to Tsar, who eyed Christophe keenly. Yet you don't get the job of killing the werewolf. Why? I've tried to hunt him on 3 occasions, together with other soldiers and night watchmen from our town, yet each time he has eluded us. On one occasion, I shot him square in the chest with a musket. At close ranges, he took several shots from my troops. He seemed to not even feel them. So, Lord and Lady Colafder feel it better to hire professionals. Someone who knows how they think and how best to kill them. Have you lost anyone close because of it? Yes, my girlfriend. Oh, my God, how tragic. But he's single, she thought, with a girlish selfishness. She opened the wax seal on the letter and began to read. The letter stated Lord and Lady Colafder request her to kill Duke Victor Rowan-Dean in his town 20 miles to the south of their town. They expected her in Colafder within a week. Is he part of a pack? We doubt it. It's only a single werewolf who attacks each full moon. Yet there's not been one case of an attack in their town. Many of our men have chased the werewolf. He always retreats south. Additionally, there's no trade between our towns. The people of Rowan-Dean know we have a werewolf problem, so stay away. It's as if they are told to stay away by the Duke himself. One more thing. It's rumored that the Duke and Duchess hate each other. They don't have any children and only marry to combine their wealth and lust for power. And Catherine let a moment's silence hang between them. She turned her head, composing her thoughts, and then she took his hand. Hunting and killing beasts is what I do. I care for people like you. That's why I do it. Your heart seems so honest. I can take the pain if they hurt me. I can take the pain of the loss of a friend. But I'd like to be more than friends with you. Now, that's flattering. Again, her nearly permanent serious expression faded a little as they exchanged a smile. I had best be off, Catherine. Please read the letter thoroughly. I'll be back tomorrow for your answer. I don't know what you would class as a tough job, but I've seen this beast and... How long can you stay in town? Her heartbeat quickening as her hands became sweaty. I'm waiting for my bounty money to arrive from Estonia. It should be here in 2 days. I needed to buy more hunting equipment and supplies. I'd like to travel with you. I can stay 2 days, he replied sheepishly, briefly reaching out to hold her hand for a second. I must say, and forgive me for saying this, you are the prettiest thing I ever seen in a week. And he inhaled sharply, yet continued to stare at the wall. That's so flattering. Thank you. Why do you say that? I say it because the ugly mob of soldiers I travelled here with are a bunch of spud-faced chances and scabby-ass beaver trappers. I dread travelling back with them. I only wish you could accompany me. And so yes, I'll stay. His lordship won't mind. Another brief smile crossed his face as he continued to switch his glance from her eyes and then her chest to the snow and back again. Now, I must go. She didn't want him to leave at all, but thought it was best since he was looking somewhat nervous, as if on the verge of saying something foolish to further add to his smitten behaviour. But so was she. Next morning. 3 loud knocks at the front door made Catherine wake up. She bounded down the stairs in her nightshirt, with Sarah following, hoping to see Christoph, but the man at the door was only a grubby courier. He handed over a small wooden box, no bigger than her hand. "Thank you," she said, slamming the door in the young man's face. It was addressed to her, and it rattled. And after prizing open the wax seal, she saw 10 pearls inside, 1 for each mother, 1 for each monster she had killed. Underneath, she found a piece of paper and pulled it free. It was from the mayor in Estonia. "Dear Catherine, you have done us such a great service putting your life at risk for our town. The pearls within are worth a little more than our originally agreed fee. You are welcome to them. Our town and country thank you. And may God bless you and your wonderful hound. We've heard so many great stories about him, matching your bravery. Long live you, Russia and Estonia. Engelbert, Mayor." As she dashed into the living room to wake her father. "Look!" she exclaimed, showing him the box and letter. "Good Lord," he replied. "That's a bounty and a half. They look white with a hint of gold. They'll fund us for a good while. I dread to think of their worth. Ha! Well done, my darling. Wake up your sisters. Get them to work in the gardens." "I have another plan for them today," she replied with a wink. "Now, take 5 pearls and hide them. I'll put Beth, Charlotte, and Irina to work on hard chores. I'll pay them a small number of rubles for now. You keep 2 pearls for you and the house. They get 1 each to spend on whatever they want. I suggest clothes, bedding, toys, and candles. They won't have any idea that that's their reward." "God bless you," he replied, leaning up to kiss her on the cheek. "By the way, that Christoph chap is—" "Yeah, he is, isn't he?" she replied with a wink. Half an hour later, she had her younger sister sharpen her sword and axes, while advising them to put them in boiling water to remove any infection chance. They seemed content after she paid them a few coins. She left them to their chores with a satisfactory smug grin as she walked into town with Tsar by her side. The artificer's shop didn't have any new gadgets, weapons, potions, or any better bear traps, so she left with only a few new throwing knives, since she had everything else he had in stock. Then she visited the gunsmith to buy more shot and powder for her pistols while searching for a new musket, but what he had was utter rubbish compared to what she had previously owned, and so decided to stick to what she had for now. Heading home, she detoured through the market, feeling generous to her father and sisters following her recent payment. The market seemed to be full of new things from across the globe, including vegetables she had never seen before. But she was also keen to meet with Christoph again. Then she got her wish. As she paid for some toys for her sisters, she saw Christoph on the far side of the market, and he was alone, looking lost. And placing the toys in her satchel, she circled the market, approaching him from behind. He doesn't stride around the market, but seems to loom above all others, she thought. Fuck it, I only have one chance. And as he entered the alleyway, heading back to his lodgings, she sneaked up behind him, spun him around, pinning him to the wall. Your lips or your money, your choice. Catherine? She released her grip on his arms, letting him turn around, and then forcefully kissed him. This is too soon, he replied, gently holding her arms, releasing himself from her embrace. Please, I must go. You are wonderful to be around, and I genuinely want to. He lowered his head as if to walk away. I need to speak to my men. I'll see you outside the Fighting Cocks Inn, the first light, tomorrow. still not over his ex, she thought. She hung her head, exhaling harshly, and then called after him. It's 3 weeks to the next full moon. What's the rush? He walked back to her ever so slowly, with his head held low and his right hand on his hilt of his sword. And leaning closer, he whispered, We believe he's a different kind of werewolf. We would rather you had the easy task of killing him in human form. It's a waning gibbous moon tomorrow. Are you sure? There is a rumor that he can still change, even if the moon is waxing or waning. My lord and lady hope you have an easy mission, and so they request your presence as soon as you can travel. The reward money is the same, whether he is in wolf form or not. I'll be at the inn at first light. At least I got to kiss him properly, she thought. But can the Duke change at will, or when the moon is almost full or diminishing? Now that's impressive. Never killed that type before. Wow. Certainly another one. Wow. What an absolutely enchanting and riveting start to this story. I don't know about you guys, but I think we're onto an absolute channel classic here. Of course, a mighty thank you to the incredible author, Simon Charles Young, for getting in touch and allowing me to narrate his ferocious work. Simon, I hope you enjoyed the start of this as much as I can't wait to get stuck in to the rest as soon as possible. Well, guys and girls as ever, you know the drill. Please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag Team Fear and DMT's Cryptid Crew. Now, if you think you can pen a story packing that much punch, then please do get in touch with me at the contact email, which is, as on screen, contactthedeadone@gmail.com. And I really look forward to hearing from you. As ever, guys and girls, I hope you're all well and happy and had a wonderful summer with friends and family, with lots of adventures, hiking, camping, or just having a general good cookout. Whatever it is that you do, I hope you're enjoying it and are giving it your all. But above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.